Hey, Dimitri. Hey, Chris. So, I'm taking a look at the latest revision, and then I'll show you kind of what we have going so far of some of the arena color testing. So, I think so. I really love the teal. I think the teal in the kind of the reflective surface feels really good. So let's keep with that. Um, I'm not as in love with the pinks in the back wall and the strips. We can let's keep that in our possibilities. So I'm not I don't completely dislike it, but I'm not quite sure yet. So and then I think there was one small thing here where let's try with the back wall. Let's try to do something a tiny bit more ominous and maybe our kind of our reds or our purples. I just want to see if we can catch some of that like splendor and the bit more of that like kind of it's a little bit more of like kind of our brutalism technology here. Let's just give it a whirl there. So, but I think in general, I like the blues the most. I like that the and then the golds that kind of go along nicely with the outer structure. So that feels pretty good. I think we should still explore. Also, not so much these in particular, but I like that we have these kind of like lights that kind of give off some glows here. So not necessarily in that color, but that might be a thing as well. And then I want to see, let's see a version of this remixed with the more kind of yellow gold. I want to give that like a feel. So and then the last thing here is I definitely want to accentuate the shielding walls to be maybe over the crowd a bit more. It can fade out in the middle, but right now I think we've removed a little too much of that. So and yeah, so I think I feel the same way about the kind of the top. Let's give that a try and see where we're at. And I came back to take a look at where we're, just again looking at the color palette of Neonics, of course, and the mech and kind of where we're at. Especially with her, I think that I want to capture some of that stage performance. I think we're missing a little bit of the reds. Not too terrible. I like where we're at. Yeah, so I think that's that. All right, so let me show you what I've got going on right now in my Crimes Against Humanity version of the game. I was working on this yesterday, and it's quite a bit. So I'm really fighting the engine at the moment. Okay, so whoa, what just happened there? What the hell was that? What? That was. It looked like it opened a ton of windows, and I don't see a ton of windows open. Wow, that was really freaky. All right, let's try it again. All right. We got the soul in the machine. Yeah, so we're gonna take a look at the whole intro here. So I think we're pretty much done with the final render of the walls. So that's pretty cool. And here, so I wanted to position, as we talked about, the sign independently. It's a particle onto itself. I might try a version where we make it extra glowy by turning it into added blending. Not entirely sure. But in general, yeah, I feel like the space is represented quite well. I don't see myself repositioning this much or scaling it down because I like the enormity. So we're not going to get much more changes in here. So I know there's some pieces of art that I really like that we've done, but here we go. So you've got that. That was the intro there. I don't think we have to do anything with the sign. I like where we're at. I'm probably going to reuse that sign a little bit as well. And then let me just show you. I'll show you the sneak peek. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish this tonight and check this in, but all right. Yeah. So cool that we got the holes in the floor. I got to figure out like how I want to do the staging of the drone entrances. Everything needs to be timed and scripted. It's turning out to be quite a project. So, but here we go. So you fight Neonics, you fight all of her her stuff. We have the transition now. I already gave some feedback on where we're at with the floor. I think we can, since where we're at now with this transition is going to get much better. So I think we can go back to a full floor. I think the hexagonal patterns are fine, so we can be fine there for perspective. We come up to the top. Oh, that also reminds me, Dimitri. I'll give you a second just to look at this. We might play a little bit more. I think we can also, we don't need to have, I think we can be more transparent with the floor itself, just so it doesn't wind up creating as much of a overlap pattern when I'm looking at this here, because I really like seeing the stands. So yeah, so I think we'll have less opacity there. I think the pattern's okay, which is fine. We'll see about final positioning of the chandelier thing. I think it's a little too big, but look, that's where we're at right now. So, all right. And then you exploder, temporary stuff. I actually just get rid of the floor. And then here we go. This transition is not perfect yet by any measure, but here we go. And I need to figure out how to make this all feel good. So, but look, we're getting there. Progress, baby steps. Okay. The one thing I want to mention as well is that, yeah, so I'll make sure I capture this too. With the light rays, you know, like, I feel like we can, maybe I just need some light strips so I can make them kind of oscillate on top with like a particle system to give it just some noise. I'm not, how do I say this? Let's see a version without them where we kind of create this as kind of its own effect. Let's see a version with them, because they do look cool when they're colored. I think there's something in that space that I'm really enjoying. These aren't as good, but these definitely really pop. So I don't know. Let's just, you know, like I think we're still exploring, so it's good. I do like those. I'm gonna leave a little check mark there. All right. And I think that's it. That's kind of the state of the union right now. So thank you so much for the work and the turnarounds. We're really starting to get to the final render. So for the folks watching, we've shipped the Casino Park district, which is pretty sweet. That is this section outside of the arena. And for the most part, I think this is the end of the level section. So it was quite a level. It took us a long time to get to this point, but we are really close. So still working on all these aspects. So I think the other side of this too, I may as well, let me see here. Why don't we just open this real quick and take a look too at colors since we're here. Just do one video. All right. Mm. 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 Let me pause it here and collect my thoughts. Okay, thoughts collected. Yeah, so at first blush, I'm not enjoying, one, there's a lot of contrast, but we're just color testing, so I'm not really enjoying the color combinations. There's just so much noise, and I think this is really going to take away from the fight, even when we desaturate. I think the colors, right? I think the middle section is closest to what I'm imagining, but I think what we need to do is come back to looking at this for our color palette. This is a service shaft, not necessarily a techno rave. So now everything in sci-fi land is a techno rave, right? But so I think let's come back to the darker golds, the darker blacks, right? And really, we can bring a few of the, I think, you know, like we keep a couple of the accents here. But I think what I'm getting allergic to is that we have a lot of just color noise. And I think we need to keep some of the accents with the, I think the lights, you know, I think that's okay to have a couple spots. I like the darker, you can see the darker golds. But I think our accent colors with like these purples, they are definitely not working as well for me. And I think we should really work to like pull a lot of these color accents down. Yeah, I think that is the general sentiment that I am leaning towards. I do like how some of the walls. I think this is our best direction so far in that direction, in this respect. So I think yeah, like I would change these accent colors. Let's go with something like we have a bit more in the darker spectrum. We have kind of these little bits here, right? Something in that. I think that that'll serve this service shaft a bit more. And grant we have some atmospherics here, but that's oops. But I think that's kind of the slightly the utilitarian color tones that I want us to go with. So and then we can keep some of the accents. Let's try so we went with the blues. I mean, the blues kind of match this. Yeah. So we'll keep the blues there. And then the last thing is, it's ominous, right? So why don't we keep, and it's also a bit more on point. So why don't we keep this like, these reds a bit more, a little bit more ominous there. Again, I think it comes back to when we start looking at, we have a couple of these bits of like darker, more sinister looking colors, not darker necessarily. So yeah, and I think that's that. So I'll get these posted for you. Thank you so much. And yeah, if you're watching, you're here right now, feel free to leave comments down below. We read all of our comments and we factor that into our work. And we're just in general appreciate you for being here. So thanks, everybody.